Hi Pisces, this is Tisch Aitken, and this is your monthly report for the month of June 2022. If you could please subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. There has been so much happening. We have been in eclipse season, and this has been one of the heaviest eclipse periods that I can remember in recent time. There was a partial solar eclipse that occurred on April 30th, and it occurred in your house of information and news. It was a new moon eclipse in Taurus, and the moon loves being exalted there. It was at 10 degrees and 28 minutes of Taurus, combined with Uranus, the planet of chaos, brilliance, and surprise. For some, it brought unexpected opportunities and windfalls, and I heard some really good news come in. But eclipses are like wild cards. You know, a lot is happening in a very short period. They can reveal shocking information. They want us to change. They want to raise our consciousness, and so that we learn and grow. And with Uranus, the great awakener and the planet of shock, I knew of some people that got shocking news on the day of the eclipse and right around that date, because Pluto, the planet of death, stationed retrograde just a day before the eclipse, and we feel it 5 days before and 5 days after. And I have seen in my study major endings on new moon eclipses and major beginnings on full moon eclipses. And then Mercury retrograded in the middle of eclipse season on May 10th at 4 degrees and 50 minutes of Gemini. And this occurred in your house of home and family and emotional foundation. Maybe you've been fixing up your home or dealing with family situations or with relatives, and then re-entered the sign of Taurus on May 22nd, where it is currently touring in your house of information. And I would imagine you've gotten a lot of news in the last 6 weeks. And Jupiter, which is the grand benefic, changed signs. It left your sign and entered the Cardinal Fire sign of Aries in your house of money and income and what you value. And it will be there until October 28th when it re-enters Pisces, the last 2 degrees, until December 20th. And Jupiter loves being in your sign because it rules Pisces in ancient astrology. Since it entered Aries, unfortunately, we've been seeing a lot more shootings, and it's been terrible. A lot more wildfires spreading, a lot of fire in the sky. And Jupiter expands good or bad. It is the grand benefic. It is the planet of good fortune, but it's the planet of expansion. It's the largest planet, and we've seen it expanding the rage. At the end of April, there were 5 points transiting in your sign. Every planet and every sign has a higher or a lower form or more challenging form. In the case of Pisces, the higher is the love and the creativity and the empathy. The more challenging points or aspects are delusion or escapism or deception. And when there are a lot of points in Pisces, I think a lot of people that are struggling with depression or mental illness or addiction started to slip more and more. And then when Jupiter changed signs, another extension of this entering Aries, the rage and the anger. This is terrible. And I think that, now Mars is also transiting in Aries. As we begin the month, there are 4 points transiting in both Aries and in Taurus. So for you, the planets in Aries are in your house of money and income. Jupiter will be there until the end of October, expanding your financial opportunities. Chiron, the wounded healer, is transiting there, bringing healing around that area of your life. Mars entered Aries. It's the god of war. It can be very reactive and impulsive, but it also rules the sign of Aries. It's cardinal. It's very action-oriented, making money, bringing home money. And then, let's see, Eris, the goddess of discord, is also transiting there. She's Mars's sister, and she fights for what she wants. There are also a lot of planets transiting in Taurus in your house of learning and networking and marketing and sales, as well as local community. Venus is there where it loves to be, transiting in Taurus, the sign it rules. Uranus, the great awakener, finding new ways to make money. The north node of karma, growing your resources and being creative. And Mercury, which is about to station direct on June 3rd, is also transiting in this sector, so you can get more organized in how you earn money. So we begin the month of June, and Mercury is squaring Saturn, because Mercury is about to station direct at 26 degrees of the fixed sign of Taurus. Saturn is stationing retrograde at 25 degrees of the fixed sign of Aquarius in your house of spirituality and endings. And so Mercury stations direct on June 3rd at 4 o'clock a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 26 degrees and 5 minutes of the fixed Earth sign of Taurus. And that's in your house of learning and communication and thinking, and it's going to be in this sector until June 14th, so June 13th rather. So reassessing, how you learn, how you network, and also processing all of the news you've received in the last 6 weeks. Saturn, the planet of karma and responsibility, stations retrograde on June 4th at 5:47 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the fixed air sign of Aquarius. We feel it 5 days before and 5 days after because it's an outer planet, and the characteristics get amplified of that planet. Pressure, restriction, hard work, responsibility. For you, it's in your house of endings and the subconscious mind. What do you need to wrap up that you haven't dealt with? And focusing on that, because Saturn will enter your sign on March 7th of next year. And then we'll begin the age of Pisces. So really planning what you need to take care of so you can glean the best aspects of Saturn in your sign, which is structuring your future goals. On June 6th, the Sun forms a helpful aspect to Chiron, the wounded healer. And this brings healing around your finances and with friends, and it's just a nice healing energy. And that occurs at 4:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. On June 10th, Mercury, the planet of communication and information, forms a beautiful trine to Pluto at 5:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Pluto is the planet of power and transformation. This is good for uncovering information and doing research, for feeling empowered in your thinking, good for healing situations with friends, and maybe maybe brainstorming with friends as well. On June 13th, Mercury changes signs and enters the mutable air sign of Gemini, where it will be until July 5th in your house of home and family and emotional foundation. And that is where Mercury originally retrograded on May 10th. So now getting organized at home, if you have your own business, doing a lot of various forms of communication and doing a lot of business, and it's just a good cycle for doing work and getting accomplished, especially at home projects or your own business. So that's a nice energy. And Mercury loves being in Gemini, so it's a very facile placement for it. And then on June 14th, there's a full moon that takes place at 7:52 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 23 degrees and 25 minutes of the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius. And this occurs in your house of career and life goals. It is not a heavy placement of the moon. It's an optimistic placement of the moon. Full moon can be emotional for anyone, but it could bring manifestation or culmination to things you've been working on professionally. And so that's a good thing. So that's helpful. And then let's see. On June 16th, the Sun forms a helpful aspect to Saturn at 3:13 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. and that's good for structuring what you're trying to accomplish and feeling stability and feeling centered. The sun does square Neptune in your sign at 9:41 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That could be confusing, and it could be issues with home or family, but doing creative work and doing manifesting and laying low. On June 20th, Mercury, the planet of information and communication, forms a beautiful aspect to Jupiter, the luckiest planet. And that is excellent for feeling optimistic, and it can also bring good financial opportunities and just feeling, very, very hopeful, and good for dealing with real estate and home. On June 21st, the solstice occurs, and in the northern hemisphere, it's when the sun reaches the maximum declination above the celestial equator, and it's the beginning of the summer season. And the southern hemisphere, it's when the sun reaches the lowest declination, and it's the beginning of the winter season. In the northern hemisphere, it's the beginning of summer, and in the southern, it's the beginning of winter. The sun stops for approximately 3 days, and we reflect on the season ahead. Sol means sun in Latin. Sistere means to stop. You stop and assess what the season has and what you want to make the most of. And I cast the chart for the solstice for Washington, D.C. The chart has Gemini rising, therefore Mercury is the ruler of the chart. It falls in its dignity in Gemini, in the house of dreams and imagination and empathy. There's a lot of focus in Aries. The moon is in Aries, conjunct Jupiter, the luckiest planet, in the house of friends and groups, bringing optimism and courage and expansion through building community. There's also a lot of focus on the sign of Taurus in the house of dreams and spirituality. Venus is there in its domicile in Taurus, where it loves to be, conjunct the north node of karma, bringing love to merge souls in a very painful and broken world. Uranus, the great awakener, is also conjunct the north node of destiny in the house of spirituality, finding innovative ways to bring people together in a time that needs healing. And I think that's really nice. And actually, Venus, the planet of love and beauty, forms a beautiful angle to Pluto, the planet of transformation, at 4:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And that also shows the promise for healing love and wounds and empowering through love in this solstice chart. And the sun will enter the cardinal water sign of Cancer at, it happens at at 5:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it'll be transiting in your house of romance and creativity and love affairs, and it'll be there until July 22nd. So very nice energy, bringing levity and light to that area of your chart. And then on June 22nd, Venus changes signs and enters the mutable air sign of Gemini, where it will transit until July 17th. And it does this at 5:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight, 8:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And it's transiting in your house of home and family and emotional security, having love in the home atmosphere, beautifying your environment. If you have your own business, bringing in financial opportunities and just bringing happiness in your surroundings, which is nice. On June 25th, Jupiter, which is the ancient ruler of your sign, aspects the north node of karma, and this could bring for you financial opportunities out of the blue and just fated opportunities that could be very fortuitous. So pay attention to whom you meet and what arises at that time. On June 27th, Mars, the planet of action and passion, forms a helpful aspect to Saturn. And that's a very helpful energy for getting things accomplished and getting things done. And that is a helpful energy. And then let's see, that occurs at 6:29 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. But then the big kicker is June 28th. A lot happening that day. The second station of the month, Neptune, the planet of dreams and imagination, as well as delusion and fantasy, stations retrograde at 3:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 25 degrees and 27 minutes of the mutable water sign of Pisces. We feel that Neptune haze 5 days before and 5 days after. That is the modern ruler of your chart. You may feel much more drained. Your psychic ability and intuition will probably be amplified, but it could be a confusing time, so getting enough rest. It's also the day of the new moon, and during that day, the sun squares Jupiter at 8:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That is excessive, but it's not negative. It can be very expansive. The new moon occurs at 10:52 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 7 degrees and 23 minutes of the cardinal water sign of Cancer in your house of romance and creativity and love. And the new moon is always a time to plant new intentions and plant new seeds. So definitely around your love and happiness and creativity. And the two benefics form a very harmonious aspect. Venus, the planet of love and beauty, forms what's known as a sextile, an aspect of opportunity, to Jupiter, the luckiest planet. And that occurs at 11:52 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Good for financial opportunities, good for romantic opportunities, good for feeling optimistic. I wish you a lot of luck and thank you very much. Take care.